CPUC decision 06-07027, which approved PG&E's Advanced Metering Infrastructure Program, and the specific ordering paragraph is 17. It's also being held in conjunction with the CEC, and we have a representative here as well if anybody has any questions. Today we have 3 PG&E representatives that are going to be presenting. Over here to my left, we've got Jim Meadows, who's the Director of SmartMeter Solutions. Also, Jess Brown, who's Director of Energy Solutions and Service. And then Jana Coy, who we have here, who is Director of Customer Care. So following the presentation, we're going to have a 30-minute public comment period. For those participating by phone, the phone is listen-in only. If those on the phone wish to ask a question, please send your question to jcdt, again that's jcdt, @pge.com, and your comment will be read aloud. So with that, without further ado, Jim.
Thank you, Connor. And I am Jim Meadows. I've been part of the SmartMeter project for a number of years, and I'll add my welcome to participants to our annual workshop. I'll just start out by giving some of the sort of status points of where our project is and some of the information about where we are in the SmartMeter project, and then hand it over to Jess and Janet to add some more information for them. So next slide, Katie, please. We've now in our 6th year of meter deployment have hit the just under 9 million meters, 8.8 million meters installed of our electric and gas system. All of our collector networks are in place, and as you can see, we're sort of in our final throes and expect to have essentially all of our meters installed by basically this time next year. Through time, we did a pilot in 2005 that sort of proved in some technology and the capability of the systems to collect the reads in an automated manner. Started full deployment. There's really tiny slivers, I guess you'd say, in the 2006 year time frame here, and have been pressing forward ever since, as you can see rapidly on the chart. Of various points along the way, we've released certain of the IT systems and capabilities of SmartMeters in the system. So, for example, our customers in 2008 were the first time we launched an actual representment of interval data for any and all customers who have the SmartMeters and choose to go into their My Account and look at it online. 2008 also was our launch of our Smart Rate mass market critical peak price type of tariff product. And 2009 we got here that we've been able to do remote connects and disconnects on the system. Outage information, the meters have a capability of producing a last gasp as power is going down. And so our systems now collect those last gasps and attempt to sort of help us tell when customers are in power or when they've been restored. This year we opened up the SmartMeter Operations Center. I'll have a couple more slides on that in a minute. And certain improvements were made to these other features and functions this year. So effectively, SmartMeters are performing to their capability now. It's a matter of getting the last few in. So again, as of most recent end of month here, 8.8 million, which is 4.7 million electric and 4.1 million gas. That's out of our roughly 9.7 million meters that we serve in total across our service area. So we're now inside of 1 million left to go. Of those 8.8 million installed, 8.4 million of them are on automated billing now. And I got a slide in a minute that'll I'll sort of show and talk about how meters not only get installed, but the process they go through to become onto the automated billing system. Some other highlights for the year are we've had 267 education centers open at various times during the year. We did 9 open houses, 76 presentations with local community and groups throughout as we entered areas and began to install meters. 469 mobile tour event days, and multiple public city council meetings across 96 jurisdictions, as it shows. So, again, we ended up the year with 8.8 million installed. So next slide. Here's a map graphic of our service territory. PG&E does serve right about 50% of the land mass, area mass of California. So I've got a page up here with our service territory on it. And as you can see, effectively, you know, we're getting close to done everywhere. Some of our more northern areas and San Luis Obispo down south, we've got a little bit more to do. Something close to 1 year to go in your deployment, essentially done. While we're here, to highlight this for a second, just by the way, the whole state of California isn't on the map, but Edison and San Diego are south of us. Edison's at something on the order of 60% complete with their meter installs. San Diego is essentially complete with theirs. Sacramento Municipal is in the middle of our territory. They serve electricity in Sacramento. They're essentially complete with their smart meter installation, as well as in Modesto. So those are sort of all of the various smart meter programs going on in the state. And again, you can see we're effectively probably 90% overall complete with ours. Next slide. So I'll talk for a second then about not just meter installs have to happen, but the meter has to connect and it has to produce valid, billable grade data for us consistently before we consider it ready to what we call transition to billing. So that takes a little bit of time. It doesn't happen overnight in most cases of our meters. In fact, it can't, because we have to study the data for at least 30 days to see that it's producing the right consistent amount of interval data hourly for our residential customers and on a 15-minute basis for our commercial customers. Did I say that right? 15 for commercial, hourly for residential. So we study the data collection rates after the meter's installed and connects. We begin to sort of view over the data that's coming off of the meters, see how that's coming in, and only when it's deemed that it's ready to be moved into automatic billing, then we do move it. So what you can see is at different times through the year, we've had anywhere from about 7% to something like 10% of our meters have been installed but not yet on the automated billing. We're getting, now that our areas are completing and the meters are producing more consistent billing, you can start to see nicely that the size of the bars are coming down and that meters are now, less percentage of them are not in automated billing. The other thing that happens, and I think Jess will talk more about this, is that when your meter moves into auto billing is the first time you get to see the web presentment and all your interval data and maybe take some of the actions and take advantage of the benefits of the Smart Meter program. So we do all we can to speed that up, but at the same time we have to make sure it's good data.
So then would the network the primary issue in delaying the billing, or there's some other things?
It can be network. That'd be the primary issue, yes.
So of this percentage, like this 7 or 8% right now, that's unbilled, how many are more than a month stale in terms of the meter's been in for more than a month?
Well, every meter has to go at least a month.
Right. So those I wouldn't count.
That's right. Some of the bars made up of you haven't been there a month yet. We install something like 200,000 meters a month, so it could be about 200,000. I don't know that number with me, Sheree.
Okay. So it does look like...
Some of them are definitely longer than a month.
It looks like the majority are more than a month.
And
Okay.
I didn't bring that with me. Sorry.
Thanks.
We can get that data.
Thank you.
But again, definitely we do all we can to not move the meter too quickly to auto billing. Hopefully it doesn't take too long either. Next slide then. So 8.4, 8.8 installed, 8.4 in billing, or about 400,000 to get into the automated billing. So some more facts and figures on our performance and how our system is doing, and in fact this is readily available on our website. I put a page here to show you that if you go to the link is at the top, www.pge.com/myhome and so on, you'll see a page that looks like this, and there's a title or a label over here called Weekly Program Updates. So you can click through to that and you would see this next page, which looks like this then. And I'll just highlight, because this gives you a lot of facts about our system at any given time, or is updated consistently. And not only is it facts about the smart meter system, it gives you a chance to compare and contrast a little bit against the way it works for our legacy meters as well. So at the top, and this is a little blurry on our screen, in your handouts and so on, I think you can do better to see what this is trying to tell us. But the first block of data on here, it says smart meter deployment. So that's really, again, just the meter count information, how many electric and gas we have already installed and how many we have not installed yet. So you can see that in the table values, and that would add up to 8.8 million when we get this caught up to November 30th. And the next block of data down shows the billing performance off the system. Again, gives you a chance that you can see it in electric and gas again, and then you can also compare it to the way our billing is working for legacy or the prior to smart meter meters. So there's some stats like for estimated bills and timely bills, and the number of segments we produce from the system. So you can see that there's actually a very significant improvement in, for example, the estimated bill rate on smart meters versus what it is in legacy meters. Next block of information down, it talks about system performance. So this is the percentage of meters communicating and how many intervals received, data like that, the number of non-communicating meters that we have, and even after our stringent criteria to move meters into the automated billing, things do come up, things happen at endpoints, things happen in the network that will keep a meter from communicating, and we'll go out and service that meter with our maintenance crews. In fact, again, I'll put up a slide in a minute about our operations center that studies the read rates and the communication with the meters and issues the orders for field maintenance when necessary. Yeah.
At the bottom, the line that's called non-communicating meter outstanding.
Right.
So these are meters that are not communicating after being put into billing, or is this in the same bar in the previous chart?
No, it's the ones not communicating after billing.
After billing.
So it's not, since before they go to billing, it's not really a performance check yet, because they're still being sort of installed and ultimately transitioned.
So has that number been stable over time, or is it going up and down?
This number, the transition, it has been fairly stable, yes. I mean, as a percentage of our overall meters, it's nicely going down, because it's staying at about this fixed value, something like 9,000. Question?
When they're not communicating, are the meters still actually transmitting, but just transmitting into a void, basically? Or are they, you get what I mean? Are the meters actually dormant?
It depends on why it's not communicating. Sometimes the meters do stop because they'll have an internal failure. And sometimes it's communicating, even thinking it's connecting to the network, but in fact, maybe the network device is down and there's, so to speak, nothing to hear it.
Isn't there a standing field, though, at all times?
Isn't there, sorry?
Isn't there a standing field, both on both sides of the smart meter, both into the house and into the environment?
Standing field.
Right. So a 2.4 gigahertz or 900 megahertz field that is always available and active.
We do have two radios in our smart meters, the 900 megahertz and 2.4 gig. Our 2 point, which is meant to be for home area networks.
Right.
That radio is not on at the moment on any of our meters. Okay. We have pilots and efforts in our future to turn those on. But the 900 megahertz radio is designed to be always on and broadcast when it's necessary. It's designed to be always on. So let's see. Continuing on with our performance chart, which is again what you would have found for yourself if you had clicked on the website. The next table or block of information it would have for you is the accuracy testing. And what that shows is the number of meters that we test for accuracy, which we do all the time, either at customer request or our own routine resampling of the meters. We talked before at different workshops that 100% of our meters are tested for accuracy as they leave the factory. They're sample tested when they're received by PG&E. They're further sample tested at various times when they're in service at customer houses. You know, again, either because at their request or because we randomly test. But this chart will show you then, and I'll just sort of go to the cumulative values. Numbers a little hard to read, but it's about 60,000 smart meters have been tested through time, cumulatively through our program, and all of 12 have actually failed for accuracy reasons.
When you talk about accuracy, are you also talking about the actual transmission being tested too?
No, this is literally the sort of metrology accuracy of its capability. So all the meters, smart meters, have to not only be communicating devices, they have to accurately measure kilowatt hours for us to bill from it. So this is an evaluation of how well did it do on kilowatt hour measurement.
Is there a test for the transmission?
Well, I mean, that would be you know, if it transmits at all, it's communicating, and it would qualify itself for that transition to billing and so on. So things do go wrong, like I said, in the transmission, but so that would show up in one of the other performance areas of communicating meter or not. But accuracy is literally did it measure kilowatt hours correctly. There's a block under that talks about, so those 12 meters failed an accuracy test out of the 60,000. There were another 1,895 meters that had a temperature-induced defect that we, PG&E, made an announcement earlier in this year, detected this problem, removed all these meters, and have rebated customers to the extent they were affected by that. But that was sort of a different problem we found and cured through this last year. So that's the accuracy testing block of information. The next one down is called customer data usage. So, and the screen's a little hard to read, but this shows you the number of customers who have gone in and set up their My Account, which gives them the ability to look at their interval data. You can kind of see on there cumulative usage inquiries, and there's some definitions about the people that are either hitting the website or requesting this data. Number of smart rate participants, which is the program I mentioned, we started in 2008. Energy alert participants, which is, I think Jess is going to talk more about that as well, but it's really the first time we've been able to give our customers information regarding their monthly consumption as it approaches our tiered pricing, which most of our customers are on an inverted tier price, and so on. So that is just a little bit about the data and information about the people who are using and benefiting from the system, really. So I'll go on then to...
Could I ask one, just while you're on these numbers?
Sure.
Just really quickly, so of all the eligible customers who could be using the data online to review their account, is that right? It's 392,000 out of 1,834,000 have actually gone in and used.
I'm trying to make sure I got the footnote that the 392,000.
Those unique customers.
That's monthly count, isn't it? Can somebody help me read that one?
can't read it, but I.
Well, trying to distill, does that mean I'm really bad at math now that I use calculators? My brain's gotten really lazy, but trying to figure out if that means
Wish I had
like,
printed mine on a better printer.
like, does that mean of all the people who could access it, it's maybe about 20% of people are actually using
He's
it?
asking what is the 392,000 kind of defined as at the bottom?
40% of PG&E's customers use online access. So I believe this probably is a monthly number, but I apologize, I can't read it either. I think we have it here so that people can get on.
Tell you what, let me take a takeaway
Yeah.
to define
Yeah,
that
no,
number better.
no problem. Just while we were there, wanted to
What
quick.
are you trying to read that
So you're saying 40% customers who have access use it?
Let me just go make sure I know myself.
Web views of total
Yeah.
number of rate analysis chart.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, that's a monthly.
with
It's
smart
a
meters
monthly.
Okay. Do we know how many people use this?
Yeah, the monthly use.
I don't know.
And I'll probably talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Just, you know, we're putting the infrastructure in place and we're getting the infrastructure in place and so we're finding customers, myself included, will talk a little bit about that and maybe some of you. You might have a My Account, which is how you pay your bill and so forth, and you look at other things, or rebates and so forth. You will hopefully have the smart meter online usage piece, but you may look at it one time, and then you may start working on something, or forget about it, or not pick it up another month. Or like in my case, and I'll talk about these home energy reports where I got the vibe online if I want to see the detail, but I've got these home energy reports that we're trying out that tell me, and I know exactly what I need to do now. I just been too cheap to do it. We'll talk about that. My wife will get on me to reduce it, but the whole message is that customers want different ways to understand their data, get different ways to interact with it, and so forth like that. And as we're nearing the end of the launch and installations, we're just start moving into, and I'll talk about this in the last year, getting the information about the program, and now graduating to how do I not only see my power, how do I actually use this, and how is it relevant to me, and what can I do with this information? We're starting to see that as well, so we'll talk more about that.
Are we
Yeah,
also
full
going-
section on that. Yes.
Are we going to talk about the transition to My Energy and the outage as well? To My Energy?
Well, again, Jess has the My Energy
Yeah, I'll talk a
slides,
little bit
so-
from here, right? A little bit of how this information is now starting to get used for like our storm response, emergency response. Is that the?
I meant the outage
It's
to
just
My
talking
Energy.
about the outage we had on My Energy.
Oh, the outage. Yes. I don't have specific knowledge other than I know that it was out for a while, and as we roll things out, we do hit bumps in the road, so we'll
We can at least show you what
Yeah.
it looks like.
I mean, I know
We'll
what it
get
looks
back
like.
to
because
you.
I've logged in.
right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just to move mine,
Sure,
because
sure,
Jess
sure.
is way more interesting information.
No,
than
not
I
at
am.
all. Not at all.
So,
Look at this. This is great. I haven't even been there yet.
here's another exciting thing that we opened this year, which is our Smart Meter Operations Center. It sits in the East Bay. What this gives us the ability to do is these are the guys who do monitor the messages and information we collect off the meters 24 hours a day. Meters produce alarms and outage information and things that tell us a lot more about what's happening in our distribution network than we ever knew before, and we can take more immediate action on things that might be wrong, things that need fixed. If car accidents happen and run into network devices, we can get them back up to speed much more quicker. And there's some pictures here of what their setup looks like, but they're really, monitoring kind of the health of the whole network day in, day out, hour in, hour out, all the time. So first, it says the SMOC, we named it, is the first large-scale utility network operations center like this in the United States. And their primary mission is just the smart meter network. So this is a bit of a schematic then about the data flows in our system, just sort of in with this, because this is much of this was built through time with the smart meter system and some of the smart meter application dollars. There's the less than 1 million meters left, but the top lane shows you that that's how manual meter reading happens. We either haven't been able to change the meter out, or of course we have at this time, most people know, a delay list at customer request. If you're on the delay list, you just keep manually meter reading your legacy meter. Yeah.
I don't recognize the box on the bottom.
The MBCDW. So that's a database that once the so when the automated data comes into what we would call a head-in system, UIQ, it gets processed and sent daily to the MDM, which performs the pre-billing functions on it, a VEE and things. Then, though it's not designed to hold, the MDM isn't designed to hold that forever, so we put that data into the MBCDW.
It's a data warehouse.
Yeah, it's a data warehouse. That holds. And at the same time, simultaneously, it sends the information to CCB, which is our billing system at PG&E. So that's kind of the data flow from the automated system. We also have another automated collector network, which is this MB90 path here. It really applies to our large commercial customers. But their intervals also are collected through a modem bank system and billed differently, not through CCB, the sort of the mass market billing system, but through a custom billing capability.
How many customers are currently on the delay list right now?
Customers, I don't know, but it's on the order of 130,000 meters. I'm going to guess 80,000 customers. Does anybody know? Yeah.
Meters, 80,000 customers.
So some people have 2 meters? You mean? Oh, gas and electric?
Most people have.
That's
2
what you
meters,
mean.
but not
Okay.
all. So we have areas we serve gas, but not electric. Areas we serve electric, but not gas. But a lot of times we do serve both commodities. So that's what really we've built with our smart meter dollars, is this ecosystem here where data flows, and like I said, 8.8 million meters installed. With that, I think, other question?
I was just curious if you have done, do you have captured data on energy usage of the system itself?
I don't think so. Energy usage of the system itself.
I'm just curious.
So,
Criticism.
No.
Oh, okay. Just curious if there was a way to kind of quantify what the meters are costing you to run, and also the latency, how much we're paying for latency. Is there a savings to be had? For instance, if you were looking to capture billing only from customers.
versus any of the outage information or
Right.
other things?
Right.
Well, I don't know the answer directly. I do know that our business case was built around numerous features and functions of the meters, including outage information, including the ability to do a disconnect or to do a status check. A lot of our customers call us, and we're able to help them understand that actually the power is onto their house, maybe something's wrong with their circuit breakers or their panel itself. So we're able to kind of speed up responses to our customers now.
Sure.
So, it's intended for all of that information to be collected and useful. That's what sort of justified the whole business case. Not just meter reading or meter data, which is very important, but it's not the only thing we get.
So if it was just meter reading, the actual time needed for the meter to be activated and transmitting would be how long?
The same amount of time. So it's the way the network works, the meter reaches out and tests in these little bursts of information to make sure their neighboring meters are around. But the reason there's a limited number of ultimate collectors is the meters do mesh one to each other until it finds a collector. So since it's designed to be very resilient and very redundant in that when there's power outages and things, we don't want to kind of lose track of meters and information for a long period of time. It does do a bit of, fairly consistent checking that all of its neighbors are still there and it's operational.
I was wondering, the old system, we at least have a meter reader walk around and read the meter, right? And I'm thinking, the amount of data that you would collect for energy usage would be small packets, probably not that much.
Oh, yeah, it's very small.
And just hypothetically, if you had a system which, if this house, if you're going to check one time a month, like the old days, if you could take a 30-second transmission sent to this house, and then shut this one down, and the 30-second transmission from this house to that house. And so the actual usage of the entire network would be reduced by huge amounts, if for instance, billing were the key issue and the only issue.
Well, I think, again, I think you'll find we have far more benefits and features with this than billing only, but interesting idea.
Yeah.
Other questions then, or I'll hand it to Jess.
Before you go away, thank you, Jim. The other question I had is, it looks like you're about 75% of the way, roughly, through your deployment.
Well, I mean, I'd say 90 actually. We're 8.8 of our 9.7 millimeters.
Oh, okay. I've been kind of out of the loop lately. How much has been authorized for AMI? I guess this, what's within your realm of installing these meters, and where are we on the money spent so far, and are we going to go over?
So with the 2 cases that were authorized, and including contingency levels, 2,305 was directly authorized. PG&E did announce last year that the expected final expenditures at completion would be 2,335, slightly over that top. There's the case is made, whatever the potential was for overrun was kind of preset when the case was approved in the first place. So those overruns go to shareholder dollars.
Thank you.
Last question?
Yeah, just to follow up on what this gentleman was saying over here, as well as I know the electric meters transmit quite a bit more than the gas meters, and haven't ever heard a real definitive answer as to why the electric meters don't follow the same protocol or architecture of the gas meters, which transmit a lot less. And I understand why the gas meters transmit less is because they're on a battery, but why was there a need for the electric meters to transmit so much more?
I could take up our whole rest of our time answering that one. In fact, maybe I could find you at a breakout session and describe it. But I'll quickly say that there's 2 fundamentally different networks at work here. Our gas system is on a licensed band, 450 megahertz or so, and the data requirements, the security requirements, and even the interval levels themselves are just fundamentally different. So it wasn't necessary to keep it more active, I guess I'd say. The electric network, because we are getting substantially richer data than just the meter read from it, and the fact that it's in an unlicensed band does a lot of sort of network, like I was describing, network testing and evaluation in very tiny microbursts, as well as sending up 6 times a day of the data.
Yeah.
So it's built for, both systems are built for resiliency and redundancy, and that they send their reads multiple times, so we ultimately almost always get every interval. But it's built around the fact accommodating some forms of interference or loss of information and how it makes up for that.
Would you say the gas is less secure or less stable than?
No, it's not less secure, but it's less need to be secure. Right? So the security is sort of easy to handle on gas. With the
just because of the frequency that's being used?
Because of the amount of data.
Okay.
The fact it's a one-way system and so on.
Oh, it's a one-way?
It is.
Oh,
Away
okay.
from the meter module.
Oh, okay, so there's no remote shut-off of gas?
There's no remote shut-off, for example. Right.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think it's time to hand it to Jess.
Okay. And we're right on schedule, so that's good. Maybe I'll, before I start on we'll get out of the way here, customer engagement, kind of answering another non-technical answer to the gas and the electric questions. See if I get this right. There's an interesting little phenomenon occurring here. Jana, myself, and Mr. Meadows, I think we've been involved in different parts of our journey in advanced metering infrastructure for various reasons. And back in the beginning, and Janet's going to cover this, it's really the state strategy around how AMI played a role, is playing a role in demand response and looking at our peak, system peaks and so forth like that. So I think my simple answer on why is electric reading on quarterly for commercial and hourly for residential versus like once a day, I think it is for gas, right? Is that when we had the energy crisis back in the 2000, I don't want to forget it because it's such a traumatic period for all of us, and is that you needed to look at ways of managing that demand peak, right? And the way you do that is looking on hourly snapshots of your electric usage. And I think, and I'll use that as my springboard into the customer engagement aspects of this, is I was here, I think this time last year, December. Some of us were here last year. I looked at some familiar faces. We were at a point where we were just coming off of PG&E's customer engagement approach back in 2009, 2010 was along the lines of, okay, well, it's an asset replacement, so we'll send you a letter, and then when we come to your door, we'll put a door hanger, and that should be it, right? That should be as we began to learn, as the rest of the IOUs in California, quite frankly, across the nation, are learning that you really absolutely need to engage your customers on what's going on. It's not just an asset. It's a way of something that is, I thought was familiar to them, basically the meter would come, something like that. But more importantly, then why are you doing this, and what can I do with this information? So I'm going to talk about basically how we went from a letter and a door hanger to multiple touches with a variety of platforms. I'll touch on some of these here, and then I'm going to drill down further into examples of these and other examples that aren't even on this pinwheel here that just continue to go on as we find out more about the program. So just kind of starting for folks on the phone, kind of clockwise. I don't know if folks on the phone have this, okay, but it'll be available, I guess, or some point. Okay, but what I'm looking at is direct mail. We're not going to stay back on this slide for a little while, sorry. On the direct mail piece, again, we went from the simple letter to the door hanger to actually multiple touches, 3 touches in fact, and I'll talk about each one of those touches and why they're so important, and I'll tie back into something that Jim pointed out. In terms of kind of going up to 12 o'clock at retail, we're partnering what I call kind of the nexus or the convergence of not only the information that the customers now have available to them through the smart meter and their usage, but also the solutions, if you will. How many of you have been to Lowe's or Best Buy or Sears in the areas, and I'll talk about that, where we have some pilots on there, where those retailers find it very helpful that when their customers understand about their energy use, they also understand that there's solutions through Energy Star flat screens, through certain types of appliances and so forth. I'll talk about those. The TV ads, how many have seen the TV spots? They've been playing pretty constantly in the Bay Area. Obviously, we have some major deployments there and so forth like that. That is really a big part of our See Your Power campaign. I think when I was up here last year, we had just started in that summer, and now they've been going on pretty well. Very well response from our customers on it. It actually stars our customers. Who better to tell how to use and how they're using their smart meters and what it means to them than the customers themselves. So I'll talk about that. And they can continue to go different ways to engage customers. How many of you guys take the San Francisco Muni here? Has anybody seen the little interactive displays? If you haven't seen them, I think there's 4 of them. They're a little involved, so we don't have too many. Everything's expensive, right? But if you go down to the Hyatt Regency, down at the foot of Market Street, where the cable cars turn around, there's a bus shelter there, I believe, that has the interactive display. And it's quite engaging, which is the whole idea of engaging customers different ways, when they want, how they want, whether they want to or not, or they know they want to or not, which kind of brings up the events. We'll talk about the 469 events we've already had. Beta Breakers events, when you got down to the end of that, you came to the big, anybody from Beta Breakers? You come to the big ball field there, you can talk about smart meters. Who would have thought I wanted to talk about smart meters after I ran the Beta Breakers? But the idea is really to get the word out, to educate, to demystify, to help people understand what it's about. And then, of course, the web content. Not only for the pieces that Jim talked about in terms of detailed dashboards about what's going on with the installation program, the accuracy of our meters, the usage. I should have known this. I realized I have live usage on what's going on with the web who's using the different tools and so forth like that. But for folks who, sometimes a letter's good enough, or you don't have to even send me that. Again, you put it in my smart meter. Others want to know, I want to get further into it, so you can go down to the web and we'll drill down into that. So let's go to the next slide now. Okay. So here's the multiple touches, which as you look at, Sorry.
Well, I was just going to ask, and sorry, I don't mean to throw a monkey wrench.
No.
This, but and I see all the marketing and everything. The question is, where's the money coming from to pay for that marketing? And is that part of the $2 billion that ratepayers got charged in this program?
Right. So, and I'll it's going to sound like I'm mincing a word. It's communication with our customers, right? I mean, the challenge we had early on in the program, we were not communicating enough with our customers. In fact, the commission told them, you are not communicating with our customers. Our customers were telling us that, and the rest is history. This work here is not so much marketing program. We're not selling the program per se. We want to educate our customers on what it's about, how's it going to affect them, and what they need to do and be prepared, particularly as we're installing them, okay, and so forth. In fact, to that piece, this is the replacement from the letter. They still get a letter, but let me go through each one of these because now, sorry.
But the budgeting?
That's all within the filings and the public proceedings.
So the $2 billion, or even it going over budget a little bit, it might actually be some of the communication
I don't know in terms of what the increase incremental was due to, whether it was the infrastructure cost itself or so forth, but
I think it's just all of the above.
Yeah, all of the
but the communication is part of the budget for the whole.
That's correct. Yeah, with all the programs that we implement through the commission's orders and so forth. That's correct. Looking back now a year later, it seems very matter of fact to us now. But at the time, this was a major step for us. Is that now, before installation, a customer gets a touch with a letter and a brochure describing that's going to be coming. As we actually install the meter, we do have the door hanger. But then we also have a brochure explaining, how to read the meter. We got feedback from customers and customer advisory groups. And I got this thing, I don't know what do I do with this. These things are blinking numbers at me and stuff like that. So you can go online, you can see these things. We'll give you a little instruction in multiple languages on how to read the thing. We have designed those with customer input so that not just engineers and a bunch of utility folks doing it, it's customers saying, yeah, it works for me, I can understand that, right? That works out pretty well. That's the second touch. And then as Jim pointed out, we absolutely have to make sure that network's ready before we start billing through those meters. We want to make sure we get the accuracy up and so forth like that. And that can go out at least a month just to get the meter testing in correctly, and it can go beyond that. And as a result, I remember that you were out here installing something. I got some brochures. I threw them on top of the telephone book. I don't use that anymore either. We send them out another piece to touch and let them know that, okay, now it's actually reading, and encourage them to say, you can go online to get this information. You can, here's what it can mean to you and so forth like that, and we'll talk more about that. So this three-touch approach is something we've done with the direct bill piece. So let's go on to the next one. Okay. So in terms of the online piece, I'm going to touch on key parts of it. First, the web copy to provide deeper content. Again, it's great that I got the door hanger, but I need to find out more about this. I want to know more about this. So I can go on there and find out about the program itself. As Jim pointed out, you can see a lot of the stats on the program, if that's so interesting to you. Most of our customers want to see your power aspect. What does this mean to me? What can I do with this information? So we do have accessible links to help explain the program, encourage customers to learn more. And we include an expanded list of customer testimonials and videos to show customers how they can use smart meter technology. Who likes to read, right? Okay, I like to read, but sometimes it's better just to hear it firsthand. The reason the TV commercials seem to resonate with our customers is they have very busy lives. They just want to see it, go on YouTube, check it out, go on the website, see it there, see real people talking, not just PG&E talking. And so we found customer testimony videos are very helpful. One of the things that we have on, I mentioned a little bit earlier, but I'll give you my personal experiences, is that even with the online environment, with My Energy, See Your Power, and so forth, like the testimonials, sometimes customers, you got to you want to make sure they're getting the information almost fed to them a little, myself included. So we've been piloting these home energy reports, and we've been doing it with employees to kind of get the kinks out of it. But it basically gives you a single sheet that kind of gives you, I call it in USA Today format, like, am I doing well? You know, am I red, amber, green? Do I get a smile face because you know, how am I doing compared to my neighbors? You know, nothing specifically to my neighbors, but like, you know, the Brown's house in the neighborhood of about, you know, X square feet. Relative to that, how are you doing? I'm ashamed to say that I'm actually doing worse than my neighbors. My wife pointed it out to me. There's things I know I need to do that. I've got to take care of some yard lighting, probably change those incandescents out with, heaven forbid, with LEDs. They got them on sale at Costco, but they're a little pricey for me right now. My bigger issue right now is I got a teenager who's actually not using the house too well. So I know at least though, which I didn't before, all I had was that monthly bill, the Visa bill, if you will. I think I talked about last year, that you didn't know where you charge it, when you charge it. Now at least I know, I can see it, and it shows in my report. You know, it comes right here just about when my son gets home, just about when those outdoor lights go on, and that's what's driving me at 20% above my neighbors. Yes?
Can you explain a little more how you compare to your neighbors?
Right. Okay.
Like,
And this is something that's run through O-Power. It's a company that's doing this nationwide in different places. You may look at a neighborhood or houses in the climate zone, if you will, or the zip code that generally match similar in the houses that you have.
Like how granular is it per? Is it zip code or is it your actual street?
It doesn't even tell you that. It just says similar houses in your area. It doesn't tell you by, that's
so you're
about
not
similar housing. Yeah, one of the feedbacks we got on these things, right, is, I mean, quite frankly, privacy. So what do you mean? You're gonna, I mean, I like to compete against my, the behavioral aspects of this that people like to compete, right?
So it's not like Google satellite, you can zoom down on your neighbors and see,
This is, you know, houses generally like yours, so you've got to kind of take that at face value. So if you say like, well, it's not like you can say it's my neighborhood's in my court.
Does it get into square footage or anything?
It talks a little bit about square footage, yeah, like you know, maybe a 1,500 square foot home, 2,000 square foot home, things of that nature. Yes, yes.
So then O-Power is getting the energy data from customers as well to be able to
You know,
make these comparisons?
I should probably, I don't know exactly how the data is kept from the confidentiality standpoint. We want to be very careful with that. The O-Power is a software tool we use, and I don't have personal knowledge of actually how we calculate that and something like that. But the idea is to get general usage. Yes?
So under my account, I had there was a set of fields where you can put in stuff like how big your house is, and you know, whether you had an electric or gas heater and stuff like that. I don't see that data anymore in my energy. Is it still there? Like, where did it go? I mean, I wasn't super worried about my own house confidentiality issues, but I wasn't sure where that data is now.
Right. I don't know how to come back on. I think it used to be that we had an APG and it was yes, it was great.
The tool is still there.
Yeah.
I just used it the other day myself.
It's the energy. It's the one that's been there forever, right? It's like an Energenius thing. You put the different.
You put your appliances.
Yeah.
This one. That tool is still there. It's just not a part of the the basic. It's not on the front page anymore that you get to it.
Yeah, that's like almost a home energy audit, right?
Yeah.
You can put things in there, put your usage, and also it gives you ideas of things to do. Yes.
Did you say that they were comparing houses that were similar square footage in terms of energy usage?
Yes.
Okay, and my question then is, how are they getting that square footage information about our houses?
You know, I don't have the answer to that, but we can take that answer off.
It's publicly available. It's like Google has it.
Oh, so it's not even the customer types in their square footage? You already have it preloaded in what
square footage is? It's, you know, it says 100 houses, you know, with the average of, you know, 1,550 square feet is what it says in my house.
You know, like for my house,
they probably average in some that are bigger and some that are smaller. Mm-hmm. And it says here, you know, it's compared to 100. But,
yeah, I don't want to speculate. I know here, for example, public information is available. You're if you're a homeowner, I'm a homeowner. My plot is in the records. My square footage of my home, the square footage of my plot is all out there. It's available.
Yeah. If you go to Zillow, you can do the same stuff.
Yeah. So, but I don't know exactly how the tool itself uses it, but it's public information available. Okay. So that's what part of a flavor of the online. If you've not visited the website, please do. Let's go to the next slide.
Can I ask just one more, just a real quick question? For people who aren't signed up on the system yet. Is there a demo that people who don't have a smart meter yet can actually see some of this functionality?
You can go on there and see things and tell you information that can, as you're approaching it, and that's absolutely the case, yeah.
So even people without a smart meter can create an account
Not create an account, but there's like sample information that gives you indicative, what kind of information you can expect to see and so forth. Yeah, I'm sorry.
You can sign in if you don't have a smart meter yet. You can still get an account if you're a
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you can certainly get a My Energy account.
But it's not going to show. It won't show you a mock-up of like the graphs that I would get if I had a smart meter.
Right.
It won't do that for you.
Yeah, I mean,
I tried that.
Until you get, yeah, that's a good point. Until you get it, you just get the one from 1 month usage. So.
Yeah, it's a different display that you get. So
Right.
you won't get the mock-up of the beautiful graph.
Does someone here have one of those, like maybe after the meeting, can look at
I have
it?
it on my machine
See
right
someone's
now.
personal? What's that?
I have it on my machine right now.
Okay,
so-
I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, just don't like write down my address.
I-
for me.
Or write down your square footage, though. I really want to know the square footage.
It's important because customers react differently to different things. So that's why we wanted to test some of these things out. So, but we're starting to roll that out a little more broadly. Again, moving from information about what smart meter is and they're going to be installing, who these people are coming to your house, to moving to here's the information you're getting, and now how is that helpful? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. One of the key efforts we did in 2011 as well is finding that, not to minimize it, but I have my email account, and my college son who's graduating, he has an email account primarily so he can still talk to his dad, because dad's not on Facebook, right? That much. Okay, but we're finding our customers, all backgrounds and so forth, want to communicate different ways. Email's one of them, but Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. So we have put in place Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so forth. So customer questions on service, where in the past they might have sent it called the contact center. That's a pretty costly interaction, quite frankly, right? To an email, to just putting it on Facebook related to an installation, and we can address customer questions and service requests real time. We're also using this for outages and things of that nature. We're using it to get information out relative to Cedar Power and some of the YouTube testimonials. You can go on YouTube and see those as well. YouTube SmartMeter, PG&E testimonials. And then key program updates and so forth. Success stories, because we want to make sure people understand, what they can do with smart meters and so forth like that. So that's turned out to be positive as well. And again, it's never one silver bullet. It's good for everybody. It's the different pieces, and every customer is different. Some people want to do it with Twitter or Facebook, and what do you call it? An alert. Others want to go online. Others don't want to deal with it at all. They kind of get it. They're doing their energy efficiency things themselves. So. A lot of opportunities that are continuing. And we're just starting to learn, because we're moving now from the installations into now we're in the era of using the information. So maybe next year we'll talk more about those kind of things. Let's go to the next slide. I think, who has not seen one of the PG&E TV commercials? Anybody? All right. Who does not have a TV? I don't have cable, okay? That might be the reason, okay? But even if you don't see it on TV, you can see these online on YouTube. They're there. Anya from San Joaquin Valley, I believe, in Kern County area. Very famous person. I think, I live in Fremont. I saw someone from Fremont. They're Steve from Fremont or something. I'm trying to think, do I know this guy? He's maybe that guy who's beating me in my neighborhood, right? So yeah, some of these folks are pretty fanatic about what they're doing with their energy. And that's absolutely why we want to get them the information, why the state wants them to have it. Yes?
Just maybe a trivial question, but where do you find these people to do how do you...
Testimonies are really important, right? Because you can't pay them, right? And see if I'm getting this right. They actually have to say, hey, you know what, I want to do this. I want to say something and so forth. It's their word. We don't script it. They do their thing.
Well, what's the logistics of them? They call you up and say, I want to be in a TV commercial? Or?
Maybe not that direct, maybe after the first few, right? But they say, hey, I've had this experience with it. They send a letter into us or something of that nature. And then we say, would you mind sharing that with folks? Where they're on an online ad or something like that. And then that's how it evolves. Am I getting that right, folks?
Well, the only reason I'm asking is I live in Santa Cruz, and we got a mailer that just was this totally neutral, happy face on there that said, "This is so great. It's going to be so wonderful for Santa Cruz." And then it turns out he's one of the heads at Ecology Action, which is actually a partner with PG&E, who most of their funds come through PG&E. And there was no footnote at all whatsoever that of his business relation.
I think we've learned all along the way of how to best communicate and make sure our goal is to be open, transparent, and so forth like that. And in the case here, these are real customers telling their real stories. So yeah. Absolutely.
Would you be interested in footnoting that at some point, that flyer that got sent to Santa Cruz was actually someone who has a big contract
I know
with?
I think I've heard about this in the past. So
yeah,
we'll take note of that. And so thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. And then going to our events and community outreach. This is if you go to a county fair, you go to a home improvement show, you go to any community event where a residential customer, millions of customers, who reads direct mail pieces? Sometimes they do, okay, sometimes they don't. Who's going to listen to a TV ad? Well, it's kind of interesting, right? But people learn different ways as well, right? Some folks engage by talking with someone face to face. We find those are really important. Some people learn by tactile. Thank you, tactile. They like to touch things. They like to feel things. These kiosks, you can't tell, but a little bit over here on the right-hand side, these are big touch screen where they can go in there and while they're sitting there at the county fair, they can play with it. The kids can play with it. We've used some of these, I believe, also and I'll show you here a little bit in the Lowe's and other places as well, so people can kind of get the thumbnail sketch, the basic information around, why is this important? How do my appliances and things I do at home affect my usage? And we have this in multiple languages, of course, English, Spanish, Chinese, content, materials, and events. And it really gets people engaged. That's all I do, customer engagement. Get them engaged on what this is. Not just the meter coming in, not just, I'm not going to see the meter reader coming by anymore, but more importantly is that now I have the information that is useful for me that I can actually manage my energy usage. Okay, so let's go back to the next one here. Okay, so we're moving from the more see or power event outreach that you saw in the previous slide to more what we're calling Power a Brighter Future, beginning to educate customers on more of the larger scale benefits of smart meter and smart grid. And again, the meters are almost nearly installed. We're at 90+%, right? But again, back to the California strategy around engaging customers with their energy usage so that they can take action on it. That can result in us, frankly, building less power plants, expending more costs on a higher marginal cost unit of energy, if you will. Of course, that's great from a cost standpoint, and also from a greenhouse gas environmental standpoint. So a lot of different facets as well. Find it simple and engaging ways to get customers interested in learning more. Strangely enough, when you have an event, just having a pop-up booth, people don't flock to that. I don't know why. I got pamphlets sitting on the table. Why aren't they coming, right? So sometimes it's bringing electric vehicles. Sometimes it's bringing some of the interactive things that maybe the kids bring the parents to and so forth like that. Wanting to keep an open dialogue with customers that continues beyond the installation experience. So it's great that you know that you've got the thing installed now. You understand is billing your PG&E bill accurately. Great, we were kind of doing that before too. But now we want you to kind of say, what does this mean to me? And I've got some examples here where customers are doing that and so forth. And again, all these are multi-language events. I do want to just touch on the stats that Jim talked about, because reporting 12 months later, we were just starting some of these things, getting into this. That's amazing. It feels like it's been 2 years, right? But I keep thinking, oh, that was just this last year, Jeff, But 469 event days where we had attendance at those events. And again, these weren't just PG&E events. These could have been major events. Where 3.7 million people came to, and we've had and documented over 90,000 what we call deep engagements after this, where we talked with customers, they interacted, and so forth, and they got to hear more about smart meter events. These mobile tours and events, that's not for the Power of Brighter Future. That just kind of started out. This is more for the See Your Power campaign, and that's live there. But I did want to touch on these other pieces that Jim brought up. 267 education centers. So what are those? Are a lot of them are staffed by my team and others. Where when we're doing deployment out in the neighborhood or a part of the city, we make sure that they have an opportunity, not just to get the touch point letters and go on the website like we talked about. They want to talk to somebody face to face, right? You know, I want to talk to somebody eyeball to eyeball, and I want to hear what you talk about these smart. I read about this stuff. I want to know about it. Those education centers, 267 education center, little pop-up education centers, if you will. Some of the cases stay a little bit longer than that is what we were talking about there. 9 open house events. That's where maybe a community said, you know what, I need to hear more about smart meter. I'd like you to bring some of your experts in PG&E. Absolutely, we'll bring them in. We'll talk about things. We'll have people a chance to engage with them and so forth like that. 76 presentations with local community groups. If your homeowners association, your merchants association, your chamber want to talk about smart meter, we're all over it. We got all kinds of materials. We want to make sure we're following through what our commission told us to do. You need to talk to your customer. You need to explain what's going on, and we're going to hold you accountable. So we took that seriously. We continue to take that seriously. I'm not just saying that because our friends are right next to me here. Okay, a little bit. No, but that's true. That's absolutely the case. And then 173 public city council meetings in 96 jurisdictions. I think a small army of us, and many of us are sitting here in the room, and I think maybe you recognize some of us, have been across the system in all kinds of venues, and all kinds of hours, and all kinds of ways of travel and so forth, to make sure we got out into the communities we serve, responding at city council meetings, at town hall meetings and so forth like that, providing as best we could the information we had available on all the various issues around smart. Yes?
And all these engagements look great and such, but was just curious, do you have, could I request some of the materials that are used at these events?
So yeah, we can, look, someone's going to take it to do on this or something like that. Maybe we can talk off the break.
And just a question.
Yeah, I suspect most, if not all of this material is probably filed with the commission. So when I say materials like, the collateral materials and things of that nature, presentations like you're seeing here today, and so forth like that. So,
and if the motive is to be as honest with the customers and engage them and let them know really how these smart meters function, anywhere in those materials does it state that a smart meter transmits 10,000 times per day?
So, we'll save the 10,000 times per day to the question and answer.
Okay. I mean, this.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I think all the information is pretty well involved in all the.
I haven't seen that in any of the literature.
Questions until the question and answer.
Okay.
Period. I just want to make sure Jana has time for a presentation and have time for people to ask.
But certainly,
Fair enough.
Yeah, I understand you're asking about outreach and so forth as I'm going here, and things are hitting your mind. I totally appreciate that. Let me go now to the next slide. Make sure I'm okay time-wise. Let's see. Okay. This here is actually something we're seeing. We started out working with, forget SmartMeter for a minute. PG&E is heavily in the California IOUs are heavily involved in energy efficiency. State of California, the Public Utilities Commission. In fact, we just celebrated our 20th anniversary of the Pacific Energy Center, funded by customer and ratepayers underneath the energy efficiency programs. I'll put that disclaimer. But it was at the Energy Center here on Howard Street, and how many of you guys know Rosenfeld? Art Rosenfeld. I'll call him the father of energy efficiency. He's 93 now, but he started really the industry, not just California, but looking at energy efficiency as an alternative to building more power plants, quite frankly, and something like that. Anyway, so as a result of that leadership, of California's leadership, companies like Best Buy want to engage with companies like PG&E. And in the case of Best Buy, again before SmartMeter, we were working on looking at how many of you have a flat screen TV? I know some of you don't have screen. I don't have a flat screen. Okay, some of you do, right? How many of you bought the Energy Star one? How many bought the most efficient one? You could have got the plasma with the efficiency on it. Okay, that was those rebates around those things were done working with Best Buy and with the manufacturers with PG&E, so that we could actually get their cake and eat it too. They wanted to move product, merchandise, and we wanted to move high energy efficiency merchandise. And we did that with the flat screen TV. If you go to the Costco, I was in Costco the other day, nice flat screen, nice PG&E rebates line coming up with it and so forth like that. Anyway, that relationship we developed with Best Buy actually was a springboard we used to say, hey, what else can we be doing here? We, at the same time, working on looking at ways of doing smart meter outreach. We started saying, hey, why don't we get one of those kiosks with smart meter? This is like, you know, Best Buy talking to us, saying we can put it together. We've got, you know, your rebate programs and stuff. We've got merchandise that we think can help provide solutions to customers. And, you know, here and there, that turned into a similar discussion with Sears. They didn't want to be upped on it. Now Lowe's doesn't want to be upped on it. And that's becoming a vehicle for customers to engage on their energy usage, to engage on solutions to their energy usage, and for ways that PG&E and retail partners can achieve our energy efficiency goals that are amongst us here. So we have in-store kiosks that's similar to the mobile tour, include digital interactive content, stays there. We launched this as a pilot in 14 stores throughout the year. In the first Best Buy location this just November, so this is very recent. And we have additional events with retail such as Lowe's and Energy Awareness Month. And I suspect when we're up here next year, we'll have lots of great stories to tell about this. And again, that converge, that nexus of the information now blending with the energy efficiency and so forth. So, any questions on that? Okay, make sure I stay on track here. More outreach than you ever wanted to hear, right? Yeah. So smart meter data and winter gas savings program. I know I keep asking this question, but I just touched my own informal side being on the customer side. How many of you participate and have been winners on our annual winter gas savings program? Okay, yeah, all right, nodding heads there, right? If you haven't, you still have a chance. We've been doing this about 5 or 6 years, right? This came out of, actually, you might recall, we had a really horrific event from an environmental standpoint a few years ago with this storm called Katrina. And that caused some natural gas shortages in the Southwest Basin. We get about a third of our gas, I guess, from the Southwest area. So we wanted to provide opportunities. The gas prices were going up, gas availability was going down. This program started out with an opportunity for customers to save money when gas prices were going up, and a way for us to kind of reduce our demand on gas too. So that was that's how that kind of started out. Well, okay, just 5, 6 years later, there's only so many ways I can do 20% of my gas savings and get my savings, right? So in comes Smart Meter. And this November, or December, we just launched Smart Meter data enabling the winter gas savings program to highlight progress for customers between bills. One of the feedbacks we got from this is like, you know, it's kind of like, these aren't the customers' words, this is the way I kind of think about it, is that it's kind of like bowling behind a curtain, you know? I get my bill, and I think I'm saving stuff, and then I find out after the fact, you know, that I find out in December how I did in November. You know, I need some feedback to make sure that I'm making progress and making some savings here. So now we're using the smart meter data to give customers information before they get their bill. For example, here, it says your goal is to save the 20%. It's like this 1.67 therms per day. You know, it's just a number, right? It doesn't matter what the therms do. I mean, it means something. But to most people, I got to hit 1.67. What you're using at 1.27, that's pretty good. And I got 83 days to go. It gives them feedback on what's going on versus, okay, you knocked the pins down or you didn't knock the pins down after the fact. So we're finding this has been very helpful for customers. Reinforced actions taken to reduce energy uses, provides information and tips to help customers meet their winter gas savings goals, and they've got this linkage, again, in the materials that we're sending out to them and so forth like that. So, participating, my little commercial, please participate and use this if you like. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. Let me see. 25. Energy alerts. Okay, I'm not going to ask you how many of you have energy alerts, so I can see on the slides now. Okay, we got one. I got my energy alerts. Yes, yeah. So this, for those who don't know what energy alerts are, Jim mentioned our inverted tier structure. Customers can, and you opt into this. We don't put you on this, and all of a sudden your phone's vibrating and the battery's going dead. But customers can opt in to receive usage alerts, and when your actual usage today crosses a tier level, tier 3, 4, or 5. 4 or 5, I think it's at the same rate these days, right? I get that right? Yeah. Okay. It will give you an alert. In fact, let me see if I can read this over here. For those on the phone, it says, "Oh, PG&E Energy Alert, you have crossed into tier 3 for electric use for the billing period." And it goes to PG&E.com to learn more. Or this one here says, "PG&E Alert, you are projected to cross into tier 5 based on the usage that you're doing." Right? So it tells you, again, this feedback between bill to let customers know that, oh, I thought I was doing pretty well. And you go home and find out you're, in my case, my teenager's got all his friends over like that. It's got the TV going or something like that. So this is a way to give people, again, another way to get feedback to folks. And the customer can choose various delivery methods. They can take email, they can get a text message, they can get a phone call. I don't want a phone call, I get a text message. I don't want an email, I got enough of those. But that's another thing folks can sign up for. Let's go on to the next slide, 26. And let me just kind of touch on these two pieces here. And I was hoping to actually show you some newscasts that were done, I guess, independent of PG&E, right? One was KTVU on the recent windstorm and how smart meter outage detection is working. I'll talk about that. And then also a story done down in Santa Maria with KCOY, did a story with a family, and the family talked about various things. Let me describe each one of these, and then you can, I think you guys are getting these packages, so you can go on the link and check them out on YouTube and so forth like that. The first one describes, we had the winter storm, the windstorms both last couple of weeks. How many of you were impacted by that in a negative way? Yeah, Santa Cruz, the mountain areas or lower Sierras. We have a pretty, for lack of better, involved emergency response structure. We use incident command structure across PG&E. When we have a system-wide event, that was a system-wide event, we have, whether it's a gas, electric event, whatever the event is, in this case a wind event, we open up what we call storm rooms in each of the areas that we have at the local city level. We open up operation emergency centers, OECs, within sub-regions of that. I'm just going to keep going on. There's going to be a method to this madness in a minute here. We open up regional emergency centers, and then we open up the emergency operations center. Based out of San Francisco, we have alternate locations depending on earthquake and the events and so forth that way. I myself, I have a role. Jana has a role. In fact, Jana was staffing it last week as the customer strategy officer for PG&E in the EOC. Many of my folks were staffing the RECs and the OECs in the storm rooms. Okay, so when we have a storm like that and the wind takes out, I'll get to do a little bit of electric 101. From the power plants or from our supplies out of state, the generated power comes in through our transmission lines. Those are the big, large transmission towers you see. They'll feed into what we call distribution lines, which are normally the ones you see on the power poles down your neighborhood, generally speaking, okay? Or underground, you don't see it at all. And then we actually have a service drop to your house. If you have poles in your neighborhood, you'll see a thin line come to your house, the same way your cable line comes in and stuff like that. Or if you're underground, it'll just come up with a riser. When we have an outage, like for example, a tree branch comes in, it can take out a transmission line, it can take out a distribution line going to you, it can take out your service drop, it can take out all three. In the old days, before SmartMeter, we would have the transmission crews fix all the transmission stuff, and then, yes?
To get Janet in, I think we'd wrap it up in the
Oh.
next couple of minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry, thank you, okay. So SmartMeters now allow us to know what's happening at the endpoint. So we know if we've got outages, and this is one of the first storms that we're actually using because at the 90% level, we can see if we've got those outages. We call them nested outages. So we're not taking critical resources, responding to the storm, kind of looking broadly for outages and responding back to neighborhoods to get some of these drops. On the family say 70%, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of neat because they got the smart meter information, they said, what's going on here? I want to reduce my cost. They did all kinds of various things, and they attributed to having information that they otherwise would not have had without this kind of technology. So thank you. I'll pass it on to Janet. Thank you.
So in this recent windstorm, Jess was my my alternate. So we tag teamed in the operations center. It was very exciting in the windstorm. And I actually did come in a few minutes late because we were doing a recap. One of the things we do after a big storm is we get all the people together in a room and we do lessons learned so we can better respond the next time we have an event. And so one of the things that the field ops folks shared was that SmartMeter was very helpful in some of the restoration activities. So they had some very exciting numbers that suggested a very active role for the restoration process in this last storm. They used the SmartMeter data actively. This is kind of the first storm where we had a broad deployment of smart meters in the geographies that we had the storm in, the activity in. So it was kind of exciting to hear about that. Yes.
Can you give any real quick specifics on what exactly?
The kinds of things that Jess talked about with nested outages, they were able to identify some nested outages. They were able to ping meters off of specific substations in order to identify which circuit was out. And then they had specific, they had some numbers about the number of meters they actually pinged to try and identify which sections of which lines were out. So it was pretty expansive. When they said the first thing, I was really excited, and then they said the second thing with the substations, and then they talked about nested. And
in reality, what resources get saved though? Does that mean they could just drive a smaller truck that might not have, let's say, a cherry picker on it or such out to the location if not needed? Or
well, I think before they when they go out, as Jess pointed out, if they have a transmission or a larger distribution line, they know the right crews to take out there, first of all. Secondly, the crews don't go home until they identify further out on the line, or do we have a subsequent outage further out. So they're able to do the restoration and get the crew onto the next event, as opposed to having to patrol again and locate the next outage.
I mean, a kind of simple way for me to think about it is before SmartMeter, if a customer goes out, the only way we really know that they're out is one, if we have SCADA on the system, which we have some limited level of SCADA, and that's supervisory data acquisition, maybe here and there. Frankly, it's a customer calls in. My mom goes out, she says, hey honey, I'm out. I'm like, great, Mom, did you call the contact center? Because if you and a neighbor don't, they're not going to know you're out, okay? In a storm, they call in, we tell them we're out, we note the outage. They may be one of these nested outages. They may assume that PG knows they're still out, but they're not, right? They're out, but we don't know.
Is nested just an isolated person who's out?
It just means someone further down the line.
Yeah.
So if a tree goes down here and here,
yeah.
The crew goes out, they fix the first one, they go home. And then the guys on the further out part, they're like, hey, we're still out.
Right, they patrolled it the first time, and the second tree branch came the next day and took it out the rest of the circuit. And now, then you can send another truck out, could be another few hours, they can ping those meters along that entire circuit now to know that there's any more damage on that circuit. So, instantaneously as well.
Let's go. I want to take you on into the Wayback Machine.
Yes. Historically, we've got a network, right? So historically, we didn't have meters. We had just a network of connectivity. I'm just wondering, didn't you ever have sensors? Most networks have sensors along the network that would say this part of the network is...
Sadly, our deployment of this SCADA is this supervisory control. It's a monitoring network, right. Monitoring devices. We had a very small, surprisingly, if you live in the 21st century, you're amazed at how few of those we had in our network, but they're expensive. And so we have had very few circuits that have been having monitoring equipment on it.
And that's consistent across the electric
utility
industry. That's not unique to PG.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is really giving us eyes and ears into the network more than we've ever had before.
Do you have any sense, it's way early, I guess, but do you have any sense of what kind of efficiency or effectiveness that in terms of ROI on that particular ability to track outages very quickly, how much resources saved? Were you able to do any analysis on this last storm in that way?
Well, we embedded some benefits from outage in our original case for justifying the original case.
Okay.
And we haven't been in a position to actually do ROI on a specific, we don't have material enough data at this point, but I'm imagining that would be something we want to look at.
We can just hold the questions again until it's done with the presentation.
So I've been asked to take a little walk down memory lane and remind everybody the genesis of the AMI project, and really Jess alluded to it earlier. In 2000-2001, we had rolling blackouts in California because there were some issues around capacity, and there were a number of reasons, and it was a perfect storm. And these rolling outages, there was some discussion about, gee, if we had better, more granular information about when energy was being used, and we could send some proper signals to consumers, we might have avoided those rolling outages. So the commission at that time established what they call rulemaking, which is really the opening for all parties to come in together and talk about, in this particular case, about advanced metering, about demand response and dynamic pricing. Now, demand response, it's really this notion that energy in the hot summer afternoons when everybody's cranked up their air conditioners and the demand is really high, prices are really high, and we're turning on every piece of equipment we've got to generate electricity, whether it's expensive or dirty, or basically those are two things, expensive or dirty. We're turning everything on we can bring online to serve that peak summer load. As you might imagine, at night or in the cool of the spring, the demand on the electric grid is very de minimis, so is low. So what they wanted to look at was, gee, if we had better information about when consumers were using energy, could we create programs? Some of them would be pricing and some of them would be communication programs that would help us manage these kinds of peak events that occurred in the 2000-2001 timeframe. So they opened this discussion. I call it a discussion, but in the CPUC vernacular, it's a rulemaking. In our regulatory vernacular, it's rulemaking. And they invited all parties in. And all parties means there's a very public process, so anyone who's interested in participating can come and express their opinion about these topics. They can participate in subgroups and workshops, similar to this kind of a gathering. But in this particular case, there was so much interest in this topic at the time, particularly with the energy crisis just behind us, that there were at that time, there were 3 energy agencies that were looking at this. There was the CPUC, the California Energy Commission, and there was another organization called the CPA, which now I can't, if you flip to the next page, it has the specific description of what that is. California Consumer Power and Conservation Financing Authority, which no longer is in existence, but at the time there was this 3rd agency. So it was a joint agency effort to create this discussion. The IOUs were there, the investor-owned utilities, PG&E, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric. In addition, there were consumer advocate groups, there were scientists from academic institutions, there were vendors who were looking at providing product into this space, there were service providers. There were these very long all-day workshops up at the California Energy Commission throughout the 2002 timeframe. And those discussions were an opportunity for everyone to have a voice in how this proceeding at the commission was going to be formulated. And nobody had really done at scale these kinds of smart metering or advanced metering projects. There were some in the country that were pilots, there were some that were starting to get off the ground that were bigger. And we all went there, we all learned from them. They came to us, talked about what they had done. So California could get really smart about how to consider advanced metering and what the value would be to California. Now, one other thing I will mention is that I've been at PG&E a long time, and for 10 years before this time, our research and development groups and field operations groups had looked at advanced metering. They'd done little trials, they had actually done the economic analysis. So 20 years ago, this wasn't cost effective because meters were too expensive and the value was not to be had. 18 years ago, we did another little trial to look at it again, and we could find a geography that maybe made more sense economically, and we did a bigger trial. Didn't make sense for a full rollout. 16 years, I mean, there were probably 4 or 5 tries at this before this moment in time. And at this moment in time, we had the legislature, the 3 regulatory agencies, the investor-owned utilities, and the vendor community coming to the market with product that was made this cost-effective for the first time. So in 2002, actually, Jim and his economic team put together the very first business model that would suggest there is a possible economic value to be had for California ratepayers, and that's for the whole state. So it was very exciting. There were these working groups that were created. The working group 1 was all the vice presidents of the various groups, the commissioners themselves. One of the commissioners actually led the working group 1, and they discussed policy matters, trying to determine whether it made sense to push the ideas that were in this space, push this forward for California. So there's a lot of policy discussion at the time. And what they decided was that if we were really to help consumers for environmental purposes, and at that time for pricing and for reliability. Now remember, this was a time when it was driven by reliability because we had just had these rolling blackouts, which had huge economic disruption in the state of California. And the CEC report has some huge economic valuation on what those blackouts were for the state of California. So even if you just think about that, if advanced metering were going to be an opportunity to deliver demand response programs that would allow us to avoid the disruption of these huge blackouts, that was the motivation for the state of California to look really closely at advanced metering. The working group 2 and 3, 2 was for larger consumers, 3 was for small consumers, and that's where I came into this dialogue, was in the working group 3. And we had, up at the California Energy Commission in Sacramento, we had days and days and days. We had subcommittees that were focused on looking at just the cost structures. We had a subcommittee that was just looking at the benefit structure. So we could all come to some agreement. What are the categories of benefits are we going to look at in this business case? So when the 3 investor-owned utilities came forward with their business cases, the CPUC reasonably wanted some cogent structural model for them to assess how are we going to value whether this is a good idea for California ratepayers. And there were over 200 entities that were sitting in those rooms at various times, offering their opinion, offering advice, offering experience, offering data and research. And it was a really active discussion and a very exciting time. So for any of you, I'm looking around the room, I'm like, was anybody here back then in 2002? Except for Jim and me. So that was the process that the state went through to try and decide how to do this. So what happened was, after that, there were 2 basic things that happened. One is, demand response says, if you give someone a price signal, like if the price of electricity were to go up 20%, would you curtail your use by 20%? Or would it be 10%, or would it be 30%? So that's called the elasticity of demand for electricity. It's an economic concept which takes a while to think about. But the idea was they weren't sure whether Californians would respond to pricing signals around electricity like other research had suggested. So we actually ran a statewide pricing pilot in 2003 and 2004, where we actually developed a pricing signal which says we're going to charge you a little more on peak and we're going to charge you a little less off peak. And they ran this with, I think it was 2,500 customers all throughout the state in all the climate zones, so that we get a sense of if you lived in a hot climate, were you less elastic, or if you lived on the coast, were you more elastic, or, they wanted to understand all the geographies. So they ran this pilot, and lo and behold, California consumers react to economic pricing signals just like everybody else. So all of the literature had suggested a certain response to pricing programs, and lo and behold, the pricing pilot showed that indeed California would respond. The second thing they did was they ordered the investor-owned utilities, the 3 California IOUs, PG&E one of those, to make a proposal to the CPUC. So in June of 2004, we filed our proposal for a deployment of advanced metering. And that was a really exciting time for all of us because we were the first utility that actually pulled together a business case that was net positive. And it was a good opportunity for all the parties to come to the table and discuss whether they thought this was right, well done modeling, and whether this was going to be a successful program. So we made our application, and then the commission process, if you haven't been involved actually in a proceeding, it's very well developed and very well defined. There's an opportunity for the proponent, which would be PG&E, to lay out our plan, and for other parties to file comments, written testimony. Then there's hearings where we get an opportunity to sit on the stand, and lawyers from all walks of the world come and get a chance to take a crack at your, your program that you put out there. And we spent quite a bit of time preparing and on the stand. The exhibits are things that explain how we went about our analytic modeling and what we assumed in how many customers would participate in the pricing programs, et cetera. And then what happened at that time was during the 2 or 3 years that we put together this, we were in this proceeding, the other California investor-owned utilities were also preparing their filings. The market was moving dramatically because they were seeing a real interest on the part of the utilities in these advanced meters. So what happened is a lot of venture capital went into this area, a lot of parties began to develop new products, and the advancement in the product suite was so significant that between the time we made our filing and the time Edison and San Diego made their filings, the technology had moved sufficiently that we felt that our customers needed to get the same benefits that were provided in the new upgraded technology. So we made a technology upgrade application, and we're able to be successful in that.
And specifically, what is that technology upgrade?
Real quick, if Janet could just finish.
Okay.
I'm almost done.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
We'll blame Jess for one.
Next. Well, Jess was more interesting anyway.
No.
So, let's see. I want to see if I have anything else. I wrote some notes down, but I think I said everything. So, the bottom line is that our goals for the Smart Meter program are really to provide our customers with more convenient and faster service. And the power restoration we actually see delivering on the promise. You know, a lot of these things, when we put these applications together, were really visionary. And one of them was how we would use power restoration. And at the time, because no one else had these kinds of systems in place, we were calling other utilities that had advanced metering systems, and we said, have you used it for outage? And there were anecdotal evidence that there were really, really exciting potential here. But nobody had really good data. So we had some, we were very conservative in our estimates in the business case, but what I think we're seeing now is the fruition of that vision on the outage capability. Obviously, because we have remote connect and disconnect, we have this opportunity to start up a customer service. We do have really great billing statistics now in terms of estimated billing and delayed billing. There's some, I think Jim's got some statistics that show that the promise of better data is really also coming to fruition. Giving customers choice, I wanted to take a minute and talk about this new pricing options. Jess talked about the energy alerts. We have a lot of customers who are very happy with that one. But the pricing option, one of the visions that the commission had at the time when they put this in place was that we could offer a pricing option for a consumer who wanted to sign up for it that would allow them to be priced higher on peak and get a discount all other hours off-peak. So we put together a pricing structure like that and went out into the field, and those customers that are on this is our smart rate, is what we have in place right now for residential customers. What we found is that they actually are reducing their usage on peak, consistent with what the projections were at the time. Very exciting. And not only that, it's not just the big users. We found that, that smaller users are also finding an opportunity to curtail, and they reap the benefits of that in their bills. So that's a very exciting realization of the imagination of this commission and this community 10 years ago. Enabling the future, obviously the things that we're putting in place on the web for the consumer to do their own energy audits or put out these home energy audit reports, those are available. And again, the commission had envisioned this, one of the goals of this system was to give customers information that would allow them to make decisions. And then there's some other futuristic things that are in the works, but those are nascent at this time, and they're also going to be exciting to watch, the electric vehicle market and distributed generation or photovoltaics. So now,
okay.
Connor.
So what I'd like to do for the question and answer part is, just so everybody has a chance to ask a question or provide a comment, we'll start with the back row and then come to the front row, and we'll go in order. And I'd like to start out by asking a question from somebody who emailed it in, which, do we have an updated cost effectiveness review stated on page 2 of the September report?
The September report being our annual filing?
Yeah.
Well, we update it once a year in that report, so I guess the answer is no, in that annually we file our cost effectiveness update. So the last one was September. Yeah, that's the most recent.
I have several questions which are appear to be related to the smart meter modifications proceeding. So I'm just going to ask them kind of together. If anybody needs me to repeat any of them, just let me know.
And can people make sure people hear on the phone?
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't even hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
No,
speak.
you can't.
All right. Stand up. So we have 3 questions that appear to be related to the smart meter modifications proceeding that's going on right now. So I'm going to ask the 3 of them together because they kind of overlap. And if you need me to repeat it, just let me know. The first is, once the smart meter is installed, how does PG&E respond to come out and change from an analog meter? Can there be a waiver for the fees charged when opting out? And people who are on PG&E Lifeline, will they be allowed to keep their analog meters?
So I think if everybody heard the questions, there is a proceeding going on at the moment on allowing choice relative to the smart meter program. And that's hasn't gone through all of its cycles, as Janet discussed, how regulatory proceedings occur. So we don't know yet what the final outcomes will be. It's gone through a very public process of people inputting what their wants and desires and the way it might work and it might be implemented. But again, like you said, it's not yet settled how all that will work out. In the meantime, and I think I mentioned this, PG&E and in fact all the IOUs in California honor a delay list if you would like to, hold off on having your meter converted to smart meter. And we have, I sort of wish I'd have brought it with me, the 800 number from our last workshop. But on our website and some places, it's very visible, very easy to reach what the 800 number is. You get a letter in advance from us that also shows the number if you would choose to call it and hold off on having your meters changed to smart meters. So, of course, once we get indication and notice like that, we don't change the meter out. So we'll have to see how that case ends up, being implemented.
All right, the gentleman in the back row, do you have any questions for the panelists?
I have a lot of How many do I get?
Well, let's start with one, and then, just so everybody has a chance, and then we'll come back around.
This is the least question I want to ask, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave. Are you just keeping records on health complaints?
I'm not aware of it.
You are not?
We talked about the delay list that we have. We do ask customers what their reason is for wanting to delay.
Right.
And if they articulate that it's a health concern, we note that.
I guess the question I'm asking is, I happen to run into a number of people in the last few weeks who have told me that they had issues with they got sick right after a smart meter, and the symptoms were very similar. And I started doing a little research on this, and I found quite a few people who had expressed health issues. It's the first thing I had heard. I was just curious if those people who have a smart meter or trying to correlate a smart meter or a smart grid with a health effect, is that being tracked by PG&E or CPUC or anyone these days?
If it's related to the delay list, it is, as I just said. So if we have a contact from a customer who says, I don't want to delay, I don't want a meter, I'm concerned about getting sick from it, we note that. But in terms of your other question, I don't know the answer to it. If there is a general database of that information, I don't know.
Would there be any way to follow up on that? Because I think it's good that you're doing what you're doing, but that's before the meters are in. So what does that really mean? I think if somebody actually, and I've had 5 people come up to me and give me very detailed stories on what had happened to them and how it correlated. And when they moved out of their house, they were okay. And if I'm hearing this, I'm just a citizen. I'm just wondering, you must be hearing this too. Are you tracking that?
I think a lot of public discussion has occurred, and we have the opt-out proceeding precipitated largely out of folks' desire to not want to have smart meter installed, frankly. A lot of that motivated by health concerns. I think that's pretty well known. We as PG&E continue to attest that it's not PG&E's role to determine whether or not there are health effects. We follow the various agencies, federal agencies and so forth, in terms of installing our telecommunication devices related to the smart meter. So we do track for the opt-out, for the postpone list, but we are making sure we are consistent with federal and state guidelines in terms of the installation of our telecommunications device, and we'll leave it to those agencies to determine if there's any effects. From what we can tell, and from what we understand from the literature and studies out there extensively, on not just smart meter transmissions and so forth, but other wireless and radio-based transmissions, there is not that relationship.
Next. Is anybody else over there on the back row? Question?
Is PG&E, is anyone tracking who's here? There's a large number of people that are
You could sign in sheet.
Oh, there was. Okay.
I don't know if people are supposed to sign in, but.
Thanks.
Anybody on the back row have a question or a comment?
Hi. I moved into this place recently. I own land elsewhere, but I rent in Santa Cruz. I'm a professional, a real estate agent. And I moved into a place where 2 days before I was to move in, a smart meter was put on. I was never in an opt-out position. It was put on. I never had the ability to go on any list. I am one of the people that has had health effects. I then did some research, and from a man who was educated at Harvard, he said 15% of the folks will probably have some effects, 5 very serious. I'm not a 5%er, I am a 15%er. And so I didn't, not being part of any group, I started doing a lot of research. And I ran into exactly what you were talking about. And I'm a grandmother, I'm a professional, I really don't even want to be here. But health effects are happening to hundreds and thousands of people.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, comments?
Yes, referring to your semi-annual assessment report, there's their comments about the California Council on Science and Technology, but there's no mention that the California Department of Public Health and the former director of the program that actually did EMF research in California, both in addition to healthcare professionals and other scientists, have criticized that report as being inadequate and not reflective of the state of science. There's no report mentioned in here as far as the World Health Organization's agency that recently ruled on this RF being a possible carcinogen. There is, when we talk about research going back decades showing impacts from RF, that's been, thousands of studies, and we have that being ignored. And then there's the on-the-street reports that have been mentioned here today of individuals that are suffering from it, and yet in the opt-out proceeding, I believe the word is collateral attack, the term that PG&E used on accounts that were put forth into the record on health impacts from people. And I'm not sure collateral, that's a military term. That's a very strange term to be using about reports about average innocent customers, ratepayers, that are having problems. I can tell you that I talked to many people who have become ill from the meters. I noticed that in my city, as the meters have been installed, that the ringing in my ears has increased. This is called microwave hearing. It was discovered when radar workers first became ill. These are known entities. Many of us remember the Moscow embassy and what happened to them. So these are not new phenomenon at all and have been extensively studied. And I'm sure there are other people that will be commenting further about the impacts. But people are becoming homeless as a result of having these meters on their homes. And many of us, a growing number of us in California, throughout the state, this isn't just a PG&E problem, this is Southern California Edison, San Diego Gas and Electric, and Southern California Gas, is that we want this program stopped and we want our analog meters returned, because those meters were not causing this sort of problem. It was the wireless function and the switching mode power supply that's in these meters that's making people ill. And until that happens, you're going to have increasing health problems, you're going to increase your liability as a company, as well as the other utility companies. And these problems are not just in California either, but they're nationwide. So I expect that PG&E needs to take responsibility. The Energy Commission needs to look into this. The PUC has been getting an earful at every single hearing, and the Energy Commission needs to step up to the plate and really examine this issue. And that's just health issues. There are many, many other problems with these meters.
Okay. I would like other people have a chance to comment, but if we come back around, thank you. In front of me over here? Comments, questions? No?
Okay. Well, first of all, based on the number of complaints that have come in, I think the PUC, is saying somewhere around 10,000 health complaints. And these are, most people, to tell you the truth, on the street, when I talk to them about smart meters, they don't even know what the CPUC is. So these are just the people who are actually in the know, who know where to channel their frustration. As far as actual complaints, I will hand deliver these to you. But these are just in the last week. We launched a website. I'm actually president of a software company. I'm a techie, but I also at the same time understand that there's repercussions to certain technologies. And so anyway, these complaints, this is 162 complaints that have come from a website that we haven't really even advertised. And these are people going onto our website, in their own words, writing complaint letters, explaining their symptoms and what has happened to them. And it's just over and over the exact same story, the same symptoms. It's children, it's elderly. I meet large, muscular men with tattoos, all them not, your poster child folks who you'd think would be these delicate, sensitive people. We still don't, nobody really understands why it's happening, but it's consistent. It seems 5 to 10% of people immediately, as soon as the smart meter goes on their house, have these issues. So one question is, I'd say at this point there's plenty of red flags. Something's going on. Have you guys done any in the field studies on how the meters operate, not how the data is collected and how it's transmitted. Actual radio frequency measurements. And have you done any health studies? Are you even curious about doing a health study? And I'm not talking shuffling paper from the FCC and theoretical and such, but actual in the field studies.
Yeah, my name's Michael Hers. I'm the EMF program manager at PG&E. The question about looking at the smart meters and how they operate, it turns out that probably tomorrow there will be a report that the Electric Power Research Institute commissioned looking at the Silver Spring Network's meters and how they operate. Actual in-the-field measurements at people's homes where the smart meters have been installed. This is a similar report to one that came out about last year that was looking at the Itron meters, which Southern California Edison and San Diego Gas and Electric
how's that report being done? What's the technique?
They went out and actually took measurements at various homes, looking at the meters, measuring the actual fields coming from them.
And who funded the report?
Electric Power Research Institute.
But who funded it?
Who funds, you want to know who funds the Electric Power Research Institute?
Yes.
A consortium of utilities, probably about 30 members belong to that target. So there are about 30 utilities across the United States and around the world. I believe we have some international members also. PG&E is obviously a member of that organization or that group of utilities because that's why they chose to do the Silver Spring Networks meters, which we are installing and many other utilities even around the world are using that technology. So to provide information specifically about the operation of the meters as they're actually installed in the field. Like I said, that will be coming out and be available online through EPRI at no cost.
Was that ever announced to the public that this study was occurring?
I'm not sure if we had anything that talked about that. I don't know what EPRI did to publicize
I've
the
never
fact
heard
of that
about
study. EPRI may have had something on their webpage. I just couldn't tell you. They have a public webpage just like any organization.
It's been done completely independent of PG&E, so we didn't know either when they were doing the studies and when they were going to publish them.
So you never knew. You never knew, but
we knew the studies.
But you
were
know
taking
before
place.
any of us know.
What's that?
So you're saying, Mr. Meadows just said PG&E never knew about this study?
I'm saying we knew about the study. We don't know when they're going to report it, what they're going to do with it. They're independently doing an evaluation of our system to report on that.
Okay. And when's that going to be available?
It should be out tomorrow, available online.
Okay. Do you know the conclusions of it already? Have you seen it?
I just got a copy of it this afternoon. I was able to skim it very quickly. I couldn't tell you any of the details. It seems to be consistent with what previous studies have shown and what the information that we have about the operation of the meter, what Silver Spring Networks has told us about the operation of the meter. It seems very consistent with that.
We have some more questions online or more follow-up that I'd like to.
Well, just right now, can I at least, while talking about it, just hand deliver these complaints?
Bring it on. A person on the phone wanted some clarification on the Lifeline Medical and whether or not they'll be able to keep their analogs meters if they're on Lifeline Medical. And I believe that's just that ties into what Jim was saying about the smart meter modification program. Once there's a decision on that, people that are on the Lifeline Medical program can choose to not have a smart meter or smart meter with wireless on. Yes,
this ties in with the question. So I've been studying the impact of electromagnetic fields for 5 years, writing a book.
Like say too, we have 5 minutes left. So
okay. And what I found a lot of surprising things. And one of the things I found was that people that are having these symptoms that you're talking about over here around the world from other technologies, not just smart meters, especially wireless technologies and some conductive technologies, it's not because of the strength of the field. And so it turns out that the one thing we're protecting ourselves from in the U.S. is thermal effect, a very strong field. And I'm not sure, I think the studies that they're probably doing at the EPRI are about, how strong the fields are. And if that were the only bio-effect, we'd be in pretty good shape. But the problem with what I found in the research is pulsed fields, anything that's variable, is what's affecting our system. So if it's a pulse field, if it's a digital field, if it is EMI, which is electromagnetic interference, it's a variable field, surges and spikes, any of these kinds of fields are affecting the nervous system and the immune system,